Hey, Jules Blessed Vegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. So I said yesterday in my video that I wanted to talk more about bitter greens, and I'm going to include that video as part of the description of this one, where I was saying how important bitter greens are and how we should incorporate them every day. So this is from Desert Tortoise Botanicals, and it is called Urban Foraging for London Rocket. If you're wondering, well, what's London Rocket? I thought you were going to talk about dandelion greens. Yeah, guess what? Let me go back. A couple months ago, I was out in my yard bragging about how much thyme, THYME, I had in my yard, only to be corrected lovingly by someone who said, sorry, but that's rosemary? And so I was like, are you kidding me? Well, I've been bragging about my newfound love of dandelion greens only to realize that they're London Rocket. Who knew? I didn't. So yes, I'd like to get back to you on dandelion greens when I actually eat some. I have been eating London Rocket, which is super prevalent and all over the high desert, and I'm in love with it. All right, so let's get into it, and I will include this in the description of the video as well. Welcome to London Rocket. Although the season is slipping by down in the lower desert, this green will continue to be available at mid and high elevations throughout the southwest through the summer. It has been the premier green of urban areas of the southwest. This person is from Arizona, so it says like Tucson and Phoenix, but anywhere in the high desert where I am in California for many years and is frequently overlooked. Wherever you know the conditions of the soil, meaning no Roundup, no dog droppings, no toxic chemicals have been deposited, this plant makes an abundant and nutritious foraged green. Other names for it are tumble mustard, hedge mustard, mostaza, aza, and al-shalwa. And that makes sense to me because I absolutely love it. For me, it tastes just like radish or horseradish, and I love horseradish mustard. So when I found out it was part of the mustard family, I was like, so yes, I will eat every part of this plant, and I love it. So the origin is Europe, North Africa, Eastern and Central Asia, and it's introduced through the Mediterranean into North America. The energetics is that it's an herb, hot and dry, pungent and bitter. For me, it's not pungent or bitter. It's super flavorful and just hot, like any good mustard, really, any good horseradish. And the seed is neutral and moist, and it's bitter, vital stimulant. The properties, it's counter-irritant, it's nutritive, it moves blood, decongestant, expectorant, and a febrifuge, which means it reduces fever. So traditional medicinal uses are fevers, cough, chest congestion, and painful joints. The edible parts are the flowers, leaves, and seeds. And it's just beautiful and delicious. It's only natural. London Rocket is considered native to Europe and perhaps into the Middle East. It has since naturalized itself throughout the world, all continents except for Antarctica, including all over the southwest and northeast U.S. into the eastern Great Lakes region and Florida. In the desert southwest, it's a winter annual, and most other locales in the U.S., it's a summer annual. We don't seem to make much note of it here, other than it grows in our parking spot, makes more work for landscapers, or an indication that someone's not keeping up with their yard. Yeah, it's so sad that these things are considered weeds when they are so nutritious and delicious. However, this plant covers great terrain across this globe, and some locations still utilize it as food and medicine, like Juliana in Hesperia, California. In a study in Saudi Arabia, our little London rocket was an emblematic species of the following regional habitat: Mediterranean, Saharo, Scindian, Irano, Turanian, Euro, and Siberian. That seems like an extensive territory. This little plant is a survivor and an opportunist. Our humble London rocket is still regularly consumed as a wild plant food in Sicily, which is in Italy. The people prepare it as a boiled green or added to dishes uncooked for me, in the kitchen. Although there are few accounts of its traditional uses as food, I assure you this plant is perfectly edible. The simplest place to start is with the leaves. Like several edible members of the Brassicaceae, and I'm saying it wrong, the raw leaves contain a relative abundance of vitamin C, literally 68 milligrams per 100 grams. The fresh leaves also contain calcium, potassium, magnesium, iron, and zinc. It reminds me of a snake. You know how baby snakes are more potent the smaller the leaves are on this, the hotter, I am telling you. But that's what's so fun, because the bigger leaves you can just use in salad. They don't bother my stomach at all. I heard some people are affected. That's a no. I just love them all. So it says simply pick them off the young plants not yet flowering. I'm eating them right off flowering plants, and bring them in the kitchen. Wash if necessary, and then proceed to steam, chop, puree, boil, fry, or any combination thereof. And then it says a little goes a long, and long is all caps, way in salad. Unless you eat chittle pins like peanuts and don't taste heat like the rest of us. I most certainly taste the heat, but that's what I love about it. He goes on to share a recipe of basil and various things, but unfortunately he is not a vegan, and his recipe doesn't really work for me. It's not terrible. He has a pesto, and you use 4 handfuls of fresh London rocket, 3 small garlic cloves, all good so far, 1/4 cup of olive oil. You might want to modify that. 2 tablespoons of walnuts. I suggest you soak them, and a half teaspoon, that's like nothing, of sea salt. You might want to use Himalayan or none at all. So that's interesting to me. It says you can substitute other vegetable or animal oils to your liking. Then it says add the fresh flowers or garnish to this spicy relish. And then he goes on to give you a whole thing about what meats you can use and stuff, and I'm not into that. Okay, here's information on London rocket seeds. Broadening into the harvest of seeds creates a whole new realm of possibilities. In some ways, the more practical harvest, as this annual goes to flower, bolts quickly, rendering the remaining leaves more pungent and more bitter. The seeds can be harvested from a large group of plants by gently beating the dry tops, so the seed pods turn purple then beige from immature green, into a bin, onto a towel sheet, and into a skirt. Once harvested, the seeds must be winnowed from the seed pods if already fully threshed from the harvesting process. This is a nice meditative outdoor task for a slightly breezy day. These seeds can be stored in a jar on a shelf for years if no pests or are present. You can also dry roast the seeds in a low heat cast iron pan for a few minutes. They brown quickly. The Brassicaceae, again, are renowned for their oils, canola, for example. And this plant is no exception. The seeds are rich in polyunsaturated oils. This is amazing. It says, amazingly, the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, the fatty acid profile, is 3.5 for omega-3 to 1 for the omega-6. Most American diets are skewed in the opposite direction, perhaps 1 to 5 or 1 to 1.5. Conversely, I would toast the seeds close to when you plan to use them to limit rancidity. This toasted seed can then be ground in a coffee grinder. The resulting meal possesses a toasty, bitter flavor, which I have been experimenting with as a breeding for baked meats. Oh, I'm sure he keeps getting me on the meat things. I try and avoid it, but he sneaks it in. I'm sure other more ingenious ways are floating around, as yet unmanifested. Despite some ethnobotanical records, the London rocket seeds are not mucilaginous when soaked in water, as are other Brassicaceae desert dwellers. If you're fortunate enough to find it growing in your environs, get to know it, especially if you like spicy food. That is a yes. Okay, medicine for the seasons. This is such a precious story. Not to be cliche, but food is our medicine. And this pungent little mustard can be used in a variety of ways as medicine. I would consider its basic qualities to be hot and dry. Incidentally, it germinates here in the Sonoran Desert, again in Arizona, upon the arrival of our cold and damp season, relatively speaking. As soon as the winter rains begin to sufficiently soak the ground, London rocket begins to germinate, covering the desert floor in a brilliant emerald green. This is God providing medicine as needed, right? Not long after, you'll hear sniffles, staccato coughs, and then hacking coughs, and perhaps fever, accompanied by respiratory virus. My first winter season in Tucson, I noted how 2 plants arrived in mass with the cold, wet season, London rocket and malva. Next, I noticed how every other person had a chest cold or sinus congestion or some derivation thereof. London rocket is a powerful expectorant and respiratory decongestant, and the malva soothes and coats the irritated mucous membranes while gently stimulating the mucous membranes which cover the respiratory passages. thereby enhancing localized immunity. How cool was that? The humors were being balanced for us if we simply chose to observe our surroundings and respond. Nibble a little London rocket growing in your yard and feel your chest and sinuses expand and clear. No need for Dristan. Throat feeling scratchy and irritated after working out in the cold and rain? Grab a handful of malva from the yard. Chop or crush it, soak it in water, and sip the tea. Throat is soothed and relieved. The remedy is brought along with the disturbance. So God. I'm going to look up malva. Traditionally in the Middle East, London rocket is used as a febrifuge to treat asthma, throat and chest infections, and as a stimulating chest poultice. I have yet to encounter a traditional herbalist from the Southwest who has acknowledged using this plant as a medicine. However, there are accounts of various indigenous groups utilizing this plant as food. While staying with a family on the Hopi reservation several years ago, I was introduced to their name for this plant, aza. I quickly noted to myself how similar this sounds to the end of the Spanish name for the mustard, mostaza. Several native words for introduced plants, animals, tools, ring of the intruders, intruders language. Warrior medicine. One particular insight I've had into the nature of this plant is its role in the class of warrior medicines. I include various plants in this category: American ginseng, aspen, yarrow, etc. Often such a plant is either stimulating, invigorating, blood-moving, wound healing, or a combination thereof. I wouldn't hesitate to use a fresh plant poultice of London rocket on a wound as first aid treatment. If it was close at hand when needed. I love that. Safety. London rocket is perfectly safe to eat with a very low level of toxicity. I could see it potentially becoming toxic when growing near agricultural effluent, where it can be accumulating nitrates, but I would avoid all plants growing near conventional large-scale agriculture. Otherwise, due to its exceptional heating and drying qualities, excessive use could lead to imbalance. Well, I don't know, but I just know I keep seeing it everywhere, and I just grab a piece and eat it. Because I love it. All right, my friends, I hope that was interesting to you. I'd love to know what you know about London rocket. I will get back to you on malva, and I will get back to you on as soon as I find it. Dandelion greens. I certainly see the little dandelions, but because of gardeners and things, they're usually snatched up or indeed poisoned. We don't allow any poison, of course, by our dogs, by our horses, but the front yard, I think the guy does use something. Whatever the case is, this is phenomenal. Look for it and eat it up. Yum. All right, until we talk again, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe, and best of all, know that you're blessed.